don't know why this is so hard. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Michael, and y'all know Ryan, of course, from Living with XXY. We were just going to post a video where we talked about testosterone therapy because we are on two opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to using testosterone. So
Yeah.
you do...
I do what?
Injection?
Yeah, I've been on injections most of my life. I've tried like the gel, like you have. I've tried the patches. What else?
Patches?
Yeah, there's patches back in the day. I mean, they're still available now. I've done sub-Q intramuscular. What else is there? I'm blanking on the other.
Wasn't there a pill?
There was. No, I've never tried the pill. And then I've done Usage, which is like an auto-injector EpiPen. So can you talk about, you were diagnosed at 26.
Mm-hmm.
So you, when you were diagnosed, was there like with low testosterone, sometimes puberty can be delayed. Mm-hmm. So when you were diagnosed at 26, did you have like body hair, facial hair?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot because, that's just how it was. But for me anyways, but when I was diagnosed, I started seeing an endocrinologist and they put me on the Androgel, like topical testosterone. I wasn't actually diagnosed with the 47XXY yet at that time, but my hormone level was low enough that I could go ahead and start the treatment.
So you were diagnosed with low testosterone before you got a karyotype for finding out that you actually had XXY.
Yes, I was told that I had Klinefelter syndrome well before I had actually even gone through the actual testing, the karyotype testing. I had just had some normal labs ran. And so the signs were there, but the actual diagnosis, like the chemical compound testing for the karyotype had not been done yet.
So your doctor assumed based upon your physical attributes, your low testosterone. Did you do a sperm analysis test?
I did not. And I didn't even, unfortunately, and I've heard of things like this happening before, but I didn't even get a call from my doctor. It was a voicemail from his nurse. That was my initiation, if you will, conversation to Klinefelter syndrome, was that I had it, that I couldn't have kids, and that I needed to contact an endocrinologist ASAP. So when I did, that's exactly what I told the endo is, I have Klinefelter syndrome, I have low testosterone, this is what we need to do, even though at the time I didn't realize that we hadn't actually tested for any of those things. So. But yeah, it was, we went straight into hormone therapy and...
But you were already in hormone therapy before you met with an endocrinologist?
No, I had to wait until I met with endo, but I was already in hormone therapy before I got the diagnosis, before I went through the testing with the geneticist.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is like you were on topical testosterone before you met with an endocrinologist.
No, they are the ones that put me on. So my endocrinology was, because I'm, from Kansas, so not everything is super organized. So my endocrinologist was in like a town called Topeka. My geneticist and the testing for the 47XXY is in Kansas City under a whole different hospital group. So I had to wait 6 months before I could even meet with the geneticist to even start that process. So in the meantime, I had already met with a geneticist and they started me on hormone therapy before I met with an endocrinologist and they started me on hormone therapy before I ever met with a geneticist.
Who tested you for low testosterone?
I think it was at the primary care doctor, because I'd done like a physical.
So the primary care doctor tested you, you had low testosterone. Mm-hmm. You didn't get put on testosterone by that doctor.
No, I had to.
You got a referral.
To
so do you have HMO when it comes to insurance?
Sure. I don't remember.
Okay.
This was 10 years ago, you guys. Okay. Not anymore.
So you had to get a referral to see an endocrinologist.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what was the time frame of when the doctor said you had low testosterone, your regular doctor, your PCP, told you that you had low testosterone, and then you went to see an endocrinologist?
I would say probably less than a couple of months.
Okay.
Like I said, in Topeka, it's very, very flexible. We've got like community hospitals. So like, I went to college in a town called Manhattan, and they had a branch within the branch in Topeka that had the endocrinologist. So I was able to then go and get some labs sent from Manhattan to Topeka.
Okay, so
before I even met.
So you met with an endocrinologist, then you told the endocrinologist that your PCP suspected that you had Klinefelter syndrome?
Yes. I thought it had happened because what I was told was, you have this. I just didn't realize
that it wasn't actually
it hadn't been tested.
So then your endocrinologist was the one that said, okay, we're gonna check out we're gonna give you a karyotype, but but to get the results of the karyotype took almost 6 months.
No. So, sorry. It's so complicated. It took me 6 months to get an appointment. We have one geneticist in all of Kansas.
Oh, so it took you 6 months to get an appointment for the geneticist to explain to you what Klinefelter syndrome was.
Yeah, so what I did is I met with a geneticist and then a geneticist counselor who was there to ask questions about like family health history, yada, yada, yada. And I had gone with my mom and my sister because they remember that stuff better than I do. And then they took the labs at KU Med, and then they sent the labs to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, I think is where it's located.
Okay.
And then within 2 weeks, it was like, I got the results saying yes, and it wasn't a surprise. It was very black and white when they sent the karyotype test.
So when you got the phone call from the nurse, it was like, hey, by the way, you have Klinefelter syndrome, non-mosaic or mosaic?
Non-mosaic.
Non-mosaic. That's important for a lot of people in the community. There's not very much information on mosaic versus non-mosaic. And we're not going to get into that right now because that's a whole other conversation, just as complex as what you described.
Yeah.
So what was the time frame that your endocrinologist put you on the testosterone?
I feel like we moved pretty quickly because I had the low testosterone level testing. I just didn't have the Klinefelter syndrome testing.
Yeah. So what was the time frame of getting on testosterone versus the time that you got your actual official Klinefelter diagnosis?
I was probably on it for at least 3 months.
Okay. That's a long time.
Apologize, it was a little chaotic. I was also in school full-time and working full-time, so there's a lot happening at that specific time.
So what did the doctor give you as far as options for testosterone? Did they give you options, or did he just say, hey, here's this?
Well, yeah, we talked about injection. So, fun fact, I am terrified of needles, but any sort of medical issue I've ever run into in my life has involved a lot of needles, go figure. And I don't know if it was just that time that they were really kind of pushing the androgel, but that seemed to be the best fit for me, and it was something that I could do daily.
So 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
2014.
So daily testosterone.
Yes. And
what was that like?
It wasn't bad. Well, I mean, we all went through COVID. Hand sanitizer. That's what it smells like. It is the consistency of a thick hand sanitizer, and it smells like rubbing alcohol.
The only thing is when it dries, it's sticky.
Yeah, it is sticky. And then there were rules. So, let's say I applied it at 6 a.m. From 6 a.m. until 11 a.m., I was advised not to come in any sort of physical contact with any female coworkers
or kids.
Or kids. My boss was, very hands-on. She liked to hug, but she was also pregnant, so I really couldn't have that type of interaction with her, which is stuff I never would have thought about. But because I just put on my shoulders and got ready for school or work and headed out. But it was interesting. I don't, how do I put this? I wish we could have had a little bit more breathing room. I wish I could have done a little bit more research on my end.
Before just being thrown into testosterone?
Yeah, because it was very like, I had a physical done in my hometown and gone back to college and then got a phone call saying, oh, you have this, verbatim, you have Klinefelter syndrome, you can't have children, call us back. It was a voicemail. There was no
empathy,
phone call interaction at all. And so then kind of jumping right into everything, there really wasn't any breathing room. And so I got the endocrinologist, I got the hormones, I got a urologist, started doing, testing with them to make sure everything else physically was okay. Set up the meeting with the geneticist, waited the 6 months to get in. And we had done all of that. And I don't feel like the hormone treatment went that well. It actually got a little scary, which is why I kind of stopped. But in hindsight, I mean, everything's 2020. Everything is 2020 in hindsight. So in hindsight, I wish I would have done it differently, but I think that'll just be the option for next time.
So what in hindsight, like what, can you give the details?
So I think because I was my endocrinologist's first Klinefelters, my urologist first Klinefelters, my primary care first. All of those are first when it came to picking out doctors at another time. So like the last 5 years, the geneticist was at KU Med in Kansas City. So I made sure that my endo is there. So
everything is under one roof?
Yes, I didn't, because they were crisscrossing conversation and I wanted to be part of that. Obviously these doctors are the experts, but I'm also the actual
living expert.
Yeah, I'm a patient. I'm not, I don't want to be treated like a science project by any means. And I do use my voice. So if I tried a new primary care physician, wasn't a good fit for me. And I didn't think they were, I don't want to say didn't have the best interest, but maybe weren't on the same page as me.
So kind of back to the testosterone, what was your experience like how long were you on the gel before you decided to go off of it?
I'm going to say almost a year, maybe.
Okay, and what was the effects of it? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was definitely more alert. That was great, especially being a college student. I actually felt like I slept better because you're not dependent on caffeine as much.
Or sleeping a ton.
Great. Yes, oh yeah. So felt really good. But what happened, same thing, is I think they were looking at a roadmap of this is what your number should be for your age. So we're gonna keep pumping you full until you hit that number. And unfortunately that goal wasn't obtainable for me before we ran into some health issues. And that's also why I had to kind of take a step back, is I was like, no, I need to be in control to a certain extent. Like I need to be part of the conversation.
So what were those health issues?
So because we were doing so much of it, my blood started to thicken, and so we were worried about blood clots, which...
Hemoglobin hematocrit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I did end up, later on that did end up happening. And for me, it was the communication. I know it sounds crazy, but it really was. Geneticists, endo, urologist, primary care, none of them were working together. And it was becoming so chaotic because I was, 2 hours away for school. So I just was like, okay, let's just stop. Let's just pull the plug. I was getting ready to start my senior year in college.
So you didn't feel like that they had like they didn't have like the most knowledge or the best communication between all of them for what's in best interest for Michael's health while on TRT for your first year?
Well, yeah. And then, I had gone 26 years without it. And I was like, and that wasn't chaos. Granted, we didn't know. But, so I was like, you know what? I did it before, I can do it again.
Yeah.
I just haven't taken the steps to do it again yet.
I mean, a one-time scare, especially with testosterone and hormones, can really negatively impact people. And there's plenty of people in the community that you know about that aren't on testosterone. A lot of them are for the same exact reason. Like in Australia, I know a couple of guys, they have Nebido over there, which is 1,000 milligram injector, 1,000 I think it's ml, 1,000. There's a difference between ml and mg, and I'm not a doctor, but it's.
And we don't speak metric.
Let's see. This is 2,000 milligram 10 ml. So I think it's. I don't know, but it's like this. Maybe it's 10 ml. Maybe it's like it's a huge dose of what Nebido is, and I've never done it. I don't speak on it in that aspect, but it's all injected into the glute. And when you are like I think one of the guys was in his like mid to late 20s after he got diagnosed trying to have kids, and the doctor just like said, okay, you need testosterone, and boom, went full dose of Nebido testosterone, and he had like an absolute, his body just like went into a complete like rage fest, like where his body was like, whoa, what is this? Like, and it like from like driving like a putt, bug or something, to then like fueling your car with Ferrari with octane, and like not knowing how to drive and handle the car. And that was basically his body for like 3 months, where he couldn't even drive and handle himself. And it caused him crazy anxiety, crazy stress. And so that's that thing is like the doctors they think about like normal as this number range. And then with never being on it, but you started the gel.
Yeah, I did. I am happy I started the gel because it kind of like slowed it. I wasn't like one, injection or one potent amount at, a time. But, yeah, I think that is the important conversation that has to be had at every step. Ask questions. Just because I have Klinefelters doesn't mean that I'm a genetics expert, that I am, an expert on hormones.
But I guess the question is, how do you know what questions to ask? Right?
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're on TRT for the first time, you don't know how is it going to affect me. Like, and I think that's where community comes into play, is getting the community's answers from their experiences, like you sharing your experience about this.
Yes. I also think, though, it is also important to remember, though, especially from the community aspect, or like if we're interacting with other people that have it, not every single person's experience is going to be identical. Yeah, and that's okay as well, because every single body is different. And that doesn't matter if you have, if you have Klinefelters in this scenario, yes. In other, scenarios, every person has a different experience. But I do think it's important to vocalize. I don't think any question is too dumb, if you will. Yep. But you can't solve problems if you're not willing to communicate. So that for me, in hindsight, would I have stopped it abruptly? No, because I wouldn't have let it get to that point before.
Well, you know how to advocate for yourself. You lived 26 years of your life not even knowing that you had XXY. So when it came to you being put on testosterone or this diagnosis, you started to ask questions, you researched it, you learned about it, you figured yourself out in that aspect. You also, I think the biggest thing here is you accepted it. Like you, at some point throughout your journey of learning about Klinefelter syndrome, like you learn to accept it. Like, hey, this is me, this is what I have, but I've lived, like you said, like I've lived 26 years of my life without testosterone. So this isn't working out for me now. I'm going to go off of it. And obviously there's complications as well of going to cold turkey off testosterone. I'm not a doctor, but like also we're more susceptible to osteoporosis. And there's some leading evidence through research that says testosterone replacement therapy helps with things like osteoporosis. There's some benefits. I think there's a lot of benefits, like sex drive and energy. What did it do for you as far as like energy goes?
Yeah, no, the energy was great, especially, being in school. It was really nice. But I was, like I said, I was surprised that because my energy levels were up, it kind of felt like I was, consuming a lot of caffeine. But then I was also getting a lot of really good sleep. That was the really, really nice part, is I felt like I was sleeping a lot better. But, and then focusing.
So there's some really good benefits that you...
Focus is really, really great, especially if you've got a lot of things you got to get done in a day.
But it's been 9 or 8 years since you've actually been on testosterone.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever go back to being on it?
Probably. I mean, I want to. It's just one of those conversations that you're like, I got to get some other things figured out
if you're more susceptible to like blood clots, which you are, then it thickens your testosterone, or it thickens your hematocrit and hemoglobin, then you need to think about like donating blood. Even though you don't like needles, that's something that you're going to have to get over, I think. And then obviously making the choice of like what kind of testosterone, what's the dose of testosterone, like all of the variables that I don't think get talked about very much in like the doctor's office or the medical field. Like,
why would I want to donate blood?
Because if your hematocrit or your hemoglobin is high, when you donate blood, it lowers the amount of red blood cells in your body. So you're less likely but I'm not a doctor. So it's like, for me, that's what I've been told. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on YouTube that will correct me and say, oh, that's not how it is, or this isn't that, or this.
I'm not a phlebotomist. I'm sorry, you guys.
Anyways, we're going to be doing some more videos and talking about more things about testosterone and other aspects, some fun other topics. And so that was a little inside peek into Michael's life and a little bit about testosterone. There's also going to be a podcast with him, going more in depth about his life, his diagnosis, for all of you that want to listen. So have a great and wonderful day. We appreciate you, all the views, and everyone that is out there supporting the organization. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.